holding on page test of the new mimer, 5 of your copies, and we were speaking about the idea that the Rebbe referred back to a previous mimer that he said on Basi Lagani about Achdus, that there's the unity of the two kavim, of Yemin and Smoil, of right and left. That is to be found not just the Achdus in Kedusha, but even in Klippa. There's the idea of the two lines. There's Kriris, there's Chamimus, and even when we talk about any place in Seder Ishtalshlus, we brought the pasuk Vayomer Elokim Yehi Oyer, that you see from that also the idea of unity and oneness. And then he wants to know even more so about this unity and oneness. How can this be when it's going to be Mashiach's time? So Mashiach's time it's going to be about Ach, it's going to be about complete unity. So what is this two lines that is in the entire creation? How is that to be found when Mashiach comes as well? And we also spoke about different details. It was primarily unity, and then that unity itself encompasses the two opposites, or the primarily two lines that you have the Ein Sof that's Meir in it. So now he's going to start explaining about what we see La'as and Lavi. Do we see La'as and Lavi two lines, two approaches, or do we see one? So Ois Gimel, line 9, in the 5th page. Seemingly we could bring proof from what it's known. When Mashiach comes, the inner level of Atik Yomin will become revealed. In Keser, there is Atik and Arich. Atik represents the highest level beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. It corresponds to what we always speak about Atzmus' revelation. But in Eitz Chaim, when it talks about the highest revelation possible, it talks about the level that's usually somewhat associated with Seder Ishtalshlus, which is Atik, and the level that's when Mashiach comes, that's Pnimius Atik, and everything else is only Chitzonius Atik, like he's about to say. Let's explain in Pri Eitz Chaim, Shekol Agilim Da'achshav Im Rak Bechinas Chitzonius Atik. All the revelations now are only the level of the external part of Atik. As opposed to the inner level of Atik, it's in a way that it says, Lo Yodaiti, I don't know, it's beyond knowledge, beyond perception whatsoever, that's not going to become revealed until Mashiach's time. So he's Gal Darach will only be revealed when Mashiach comes. Less smaller Bahaitik. Concerning the inner level of Atik, it says there is no left in this level of Atik, meaning there's seemingly only the right line, not the left line. Only the level having to do with Chesed, not having to do with Gvura. Comes out when Mashiach comes, there will only be one line, the right line, because it says less smaller Bahayatika, there's no left. So the Rebbe says, not so fast. Amnam be'emes, but in truth, from this itself, we actually have a proof for the other side, that there are two lines. How do we know that when Mashiach comes, there's not going to be the level of Smoil, or in the level of Atik, there's no level of Smoil, and therefore, since Pnimius Atik is going to come revealed when Mashiach comes, there's not going to be a level of Smoil, because it says in Al Yashu, we say it every morning, we say that your right hand Hashem was glorified with power, and your right hand Hashem will smash the enemy. Yemincha shtei pamim. It says twice the level of Yemincha, the level of your right. Moving for this is understood. Though there's no level of a left in this level of Atik, that there aren't the two lines of right and left, Hari Alpha became Yeshlem Shnei Kavim. They're still both lines. Ella Sheshneim Biyamin, but both of the lines will be on the right, because that's what it means, twice saying Yamin. From this it's obvious, Shagam lost love Yushnei Kavim, also when Mashiach comes, there's going to be two lines. Both of them be on the level of the right. So too, it seems, and we could see from where it says in the Geras HaKodesh and Tanya, that over there he speaks about the function of Torah mitzvahs in elevating the sparks and refining the sparks. And part of the issue is, so what happens after we refine the sparks? What happens when Mashiach comes? So he says over there, line 28, after we will complete the refining of the sparks, and the bad will be separated from the good. So then the involvement of Torah mitzvahs will not be levar berurim to refine sparks. Top of page Yud, but rather to make even more levels of unions and matings of the spheres above. We know that with every time we do a mitzvah, there are multiple effects that we have. One of the effects is in the spiritual realms, that we cause a union of the spheres above. Just like there's a union of a chas and kala down here, of a husband and wife down here, so too there's a union of the spheres above. And what happens when there is a union between the spheres above, that means that there's an additional revelation of light that comes about, just like through a union of chas and kala down here, they give birth to children. So in a similar vein, when there's a union of the spheres above, it causes a Tosefes Gilui. Another idea is the bir on etzoitis that we are always aware of and that we always speak about, that we refine the sparks. So this idea of refining and elevating the sparks won't apply anymore when Mashiach comes, because it's already, the klippa was already removed and the sparks were already released. So what will be the function of Torah mitzvahs is to make higher levels of union, even higher than the ones that were done before Mashiach comes. Line 2, V'hainu sh'at b'zman ha'golos yeshnam shnei minei avoid. Now in the times of Golos, there are two types of service. Hamshachas ha'iraydim mitzvahs. In general, when we do positive commandments, we're drawing down divine light down here. And we're pushing away the bad through the negative commandments by saying this is not to be used, this is not functional, this is not applicable. So this pushes away the bad, because those things have to do with klippah. Mashenkin, loss of love, is opposed to when Mashiach comes. When I will remove the spirit of tumah from the earth. So even then, all matters of avodah will be in both lines. Asay velois asay. It will be in the positive and the negative commandment. We're not going to give up the positive and the negative commandment. They're both going to be here. But even though they're both going to be here, then there will not be the involvement in refining the bad. We will still rather in a function of ascent. And all of it is for the sake of an ascent. From one level to another level in holiness itself. Similar to what was explained previously. In Torah mitzvahs, there's two aspects, two components. In other words, previously it's talking about, like we said in the earlier Mamarim of the Samshah. Concerning Torah, the Chazal said, I created Yetzirah, I created an antidote for it. Literally means it's a spice. Tavlin means when you have type of food that doesn't taste well or whatever, so you spice it up, you give it flavor. Perhaps even in those days when food started going a little bit bad, they used to spice it and they used to use it to store it and so on, or even to cover up maybe some of the bad flavor to it. But in a similar vein, the Chazal use the language that there's a Yitzhahara, which is a horrible thing. So Torah is to help you out with the Yitzhahara. According to that, Maimer Chazal comes out seemingly that the Torah is for the sake of refining the Yitzhahara. Also, to concerning mitzvahs, the Chazal say, the mitzvahs were only given to refine people. That was the purpose. So in other words, in both of these Mamar Chazal, what do we see? That the Torah is about dealing with the world. The Torah is about the low things of this world that needs to be elevated and refined and changed and covered over the bad taste and so on. Line 17 on the other hand, when concerning the Torah, it says, I will be by him a special thing, a trained thing, and I will be by him delight and enjoyment day and day. The Torah is the delight of a king in his very essence. It's beyond having to do with anything with the world. It says, he relates his words and his statutes and his laws to his nation. That means that there is the level of the mitzvahs before he related it to his nation. That's chukav mishpatav. It's his. It's connected with him. In other words, it's beyond dealing with the world, beyond dealing with the Yitzhahara, beyond needing to refine the creations. It's above the world. So therefore, how do we reconcile the two? Is it about the world? Is it about refining the world? Is it about dealing with Yitzhahara, etc.? Is it about refining people? Or is it Hashem's own private plaything? So it says in line 20, rather than Torah mitzvahs, there are two aspects. And the future, when Mashiach comes in a gam in our Torah mitzvahs, even that component of Torah mitzvahs that are supposed to impact the world and influence the world will be in a higher way. He's not saying that when Mashiach comes, it'll only be the part of Torah that's Shashuya Melch Batzmusay, and the part dealing with Tzaref Sabriyas and so on, that won't exist. That will exist, but in a much higher way. What does it mean in a higher way? So he explains in 24, not for the sake of refining the sparks, but rather for the sake of an ascent in holiness itself. That is going to be the purpose of the Torah mitzvahs, for the ascent in holiness itself. And this ascent itself, when Mashiach comes, there will be both lines. Both of these lines that are going to be when Mashiach comes to affect the ascent in holiness itself, like we said, to make Yichudim al Yoinim Yoiser, it's going to be all the two lines are going to be in a way of unity. So now he explains, what does that mean? So he says, this means that the unity will not come only as a result of that will of Hashem, that we know Hashem's will is above Seder Ishtalshlus. Therefore, the will of Hashem is above division. Elo gam, top of page Aleph, even when the different aspects of the different lines come out in a revealed way, the way they come out, each one in their own form and their own divided way, gam oz yurgish inyan hais achtas shebehem. Also then, it will be felt the idea of the oneness that it's in them. In other words, in the level it's beyond division. Obviously it's beyond division. The Chiddush is, even where there is division, like the Rebbe often referred to what it says on the U.S. currency, e pluribus unum, that you take from the many, you make it one. The Chiddush is that even in the division, you should find the unity. Similar to what's explained in the dispute in Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Kiva concerning Matan Torah, that im hayu oimrim al hein hein val lav lav, or al hein hein val lav hein. There's a machlokes between them. When the Yidden heard each one of the Aseres HaDibros, how did they reply? So one opinion is that they replied yes on the positive commandments. Yes, we will remember Shabbos. Yes, we will honor our parents and mother. And when it came to the negative commandments, so then we said, no, we won't murder. No, we won't steal. No, we won't do such and such. So that means, al hein hein val lav lav. On the positive, we answered yes. On the negative, we answered no. Comes the other opinion and says no. On the positive and on the negative, we said yes. In other words, we'll do it. So the question is, in other words, yes, we accept. So the question is, what's the meaning behind it? And the Rebbe speaks about it. There's a whole sichos about this, all the different things. Many of you might be familiar with this. But the point that he's bringing over here is, end of line 5, Shagam kashiyesh shnei kav. Also, when there's two lines, hein v'lav, there's the positive and there's a negative. The mitzvahs aseh and the mitzvahs loisaseh. So, answering yes to both, both of them we're looking at, that's all Hashem's divine will. When you look from the divine will, when you look from the Hashem's will above, there's no difference between the positive and the negative. Since wherever the place of the supernal man, over there he's found, the Rebbe is expanding on the famous expression that wherever a person's will is, that's where he's found. So the same thing, since Hashem's will is in Torah mitzvahs, in both the positive and the negative, so that means his very essence is found over there. In both the positive and the negative, the hein and the lav, the aseh and the loisas is felt the infinite light of Hashem, because that's the rotzen that's beyond any division. When Mashiach comes, this unity and joining will be felt in a revealed way. So you'll have two lines, but you will feel how these two are really part of one whole, just like you don't feel a difference between the positive commandments and the negative commandments. They're all about, yes, I will fulfill Hashem's will. Line 12. This will be also understood concerning the dispute between the Rambam and the Ramban concerning the perfect state of Mashiach's times. What's going to be the perfect elevation? When are we going to attain the perfection? During what period? During what situation are we going to attain the perfect type of state of Mashiach's times? The opinion of the Rambam is that the main ascent of the Mashiach's times will be in the world to come. The souls without bodies. This means the idea of the resurrection, that souls will be in the bodies, will only be for a certain amount of time. And afterwards, once we are done with Tchias HaMesim, for whatever amount of time that is, the Rambam doesn't give a time limit on it, then we will come, according to the Rambam, to the ultimate thing, the ultimate quality, the main reward, which is neshamas without bodies. We'll pass away and then we'll have the ultimate reward. But das Ramban, in the opinion of the Ramban, is the main elevation will be in the state and situation of souls, the way they're enclosed in bodies specifically. The conclusion in Kabbalah and Chassidus is according to the opinion of the Ramban. That the ultimate elevation will be of the shamas being enclosed in bodies, but it will be different than the way it is now. The neshamas will derive their sustenance from the body, not the way it is now. That the body is enlivened and vitalized through the neshama. It will be the other way around, because the source of the body will become revealed, which is higher than the neshama, and the neshama will take from that. So the Rebbe says, he asks a question on line 24. There's so much more, a greater quality and advantage in a state and situation of neshamas without bodies. Why? So it's an interesting thing. Many places in Chassidus it tries to understand and explain why we follow, Kabbalah follows the opinion of the Ramban. And there's one usual standard question, which is, isn't spiritual so much better than the physical? But here the Rebbe asks a question from a completely different perspective. He says, if you have a soul without a body, then you don't have this unity. Souls and bodies are two things. If you have a soul without a body, there's only one thing, there's only a soul. But this is emphasized, the advantage of oneness and unity. So that's why, seemingly, we should follow the view of the Rambam, that the ultimate revelation is with souls without bodies. Why? Because that's true unity. But when the souls are bodies down here, as great and as high and as elevated as it is, it's still disunity. It's still two different things. So how come? Why do we actually follow the view of the Ramban? Like you said, that's the conclusion of Kabbalah and Chassidus. So the Rebbe says in line 26, Al Birbazad explanation of this is Al Pia Amrli, according to what we said previously, Shagam lost Lova Yushnei Akav. Also in the future when Mashiach comes, there'll be both lines. Ela Sheyu Bisachdus, they'll be in a way of oneness and unity in Mishum Zem because of that. In the Iker V'Tachos Ha'aliyah Del Asad Love, the ultimate and the main level of ascent of the future time, Mashiach's times. Will only be in a way when there's both matters of souls together with bodies. And still in all, they'll be in a state of unity and oneness. So now the Rebbe is going to go into an interesting thing about the Avodah now, where we're dealing with something that is not what it's about when Mashiach comes. So he says at the top of page Yud Beis, I say, according to everything I was mentioned before, the Toitz of Beer, to add an explanation, through this additional explanation that the Rebbe is soon going to explain, we have a greater empowerment in our avodah as well. What is that? First, we need to preface the following question. Similarly, we need to understand the kiddush loss of love. Since in the future, there will not be able to, there won't be applicable at all, the idea of the avodah b'shnei hakavim in the two lines. That's the way we assumed initially. Nimtza comes out, sheklolos avodah the kiyum mitzvahs hirakin shal chizus anayim comes out that even what we're doing now, that we are presently doing our avodah fulfilling mitzvahs, it's considered it's sleight of hand. It's considered not real. It's considered just like a modern magic. It's illusion. Because there isn't really, in truth, two lines, as it will be evident when Mashiach comes. The fact that Torah Mitzvah is about dealing with both lines, it's about dealing with the low of this world and refining, etc. It's all an illusion. We're not doing anything real. It's all imaginary. This reminds of the story that it says about there was once a Paritz that hired a Jew to go ahead, and he's going to pay him to stand in a room with a sickle, and he'll just pay him to like cut imaginary wheat in the room. And after a while, he couldn't do it. He says, "The arbet setzt sich nicht on it. I don't see the results of my work. I don't see that I'm accomplishing anything," even though he's being paid. But you need to have a sense of accomplishment. So if there's no two lines, if when Mashiach comes there's no two lines, so in truth there's no real two lines. So therefore I'm not really accomplishing anything over here. It's all an illusion. It goes on line 7, even if we'll say that during the time of the Avodah, the existence of two lines actually existed. It's only in the future. Since this existence of the two lines is only in the present and only temporarily, it doesn't have an everlasting type of existence, meaning since later it's not going to be, so it's not really existing now. Like it's known concerning the rivers that are false once in 7 years. Meaning, a river that dries up once in 7 years, it's considered not a real river. It's not really alive. It's not real live water. That from this, it means that even when they are running, they are considered false rivers. They don't have a true existence. Like the Gemara speaks over there about being mayim chayim, necessary to have living water for the para aduma, and this is not considered living water, even though it's only going to dry up in 6 years and 364 days from now. Still no, right now, since it's going to dry up, right now it's already not considered living water. It's not considered a true existence. So therefore, since the mitzvahs are not going to be too kavin when Mashiach comes, seemingly, so even now it seems to be a false thing. Surely we cannot say so concerning the mitzvahs that it's somehow false and not real and it's an illusion. The kibbutz mitzvahs in Ritzoyin, since the mitzvahs are the divine will, so it must amitis, they are true existence. The kshem sha'atzmus are in itself one mitzvahs, just like the essence of the Eibishter is the true existence. Kach kam Ritzoyin mitzvahs amitis, so too also his will and his mitzvahs are a true existence. So acha inyan hu kamer leil, but the answer for this, like we said before, shegam la'asid lava yushnei akam k'mayata. Also, Mashiach comes, there will be both lines like now. But the difference between the two lines when Mashiach comes and the two lines now is just that el she'oz yurgish b'miyana achta. So when Mashiach comes, the unity and the oneness between the two lines, because the Ratzon Elyon will be manifest, because the Eir and Sof will be manifest, so you'll see the union of the diversity of the disparity.